This video covers mechanical disassembly and assembly, mechanical alignment and electrical alignment for Akai video cassette recorders produced between 1989 and 1992. The information contained in this video manual is intended to supplement that contained in the service manual for models being repaired. Your particular attention is drawn to the safety instructions that appear on the front pages of the service manual. Before commencing repair or adjustment, please ensure the following equipment is available. Double beam oscilloscope, minimum 60 megs bandwidth, color bar generator, test tapes TF527BL, TF530RFS, TF532CBS, a voltmeter and a service manual for the model being repaired.
The first section deals with disassembly. To remove the main chassis, remove the 3 screws indicated on the screen. Then remove the bridge rectifier from its mount. Take off the plug from the erase head and also the plug from the audio control head. Remove the 3 plugs linking the mechanical section to the electronic section. This comprises of 1 plug and socket and 2 ribbon cables. However, this will vary from model to model. You may find it easier to remove the preamp PCB. This is done by removing 2 mounting screws and the PCB will lift off. When this is done, slide out the chassis. The next section deals with the replacement of the drum motor PCB. To make it easy to show you on screen, we have removed the drum assembly from the chassis. This is done by removing the 3 screws highlighted on the screen. When the screws have been removed, gently lift the lower drum motor and remove the plug on the motor PCB. Remove the 2 screws on the rotating disc at the base of the lower drum. Remove the washer and then gently pull off the rotating magnet. It is very important that you take note of the 3rd hole and make sure that when you replace the magnet it lines up with the Allen key hole on the spindle of the lower drum. If this is not done, then the head switching will be out of phase and you will either see no picture or a very noisy picture on playback. The next step is to remove the 3 screws supporting the motor PCB on the base of the lower drum. As you can see, the drum motor PCB is not very easy to repair. We would suggest that you replace the PCB complete rather than try to repair, as we cannot guarantee the supply of spare parts. Fitting the new PCB is the exact reverse of removing the old one. Don't forget to line up the spare hole on the rotating magnet with the Allen screw on the shaft of the lower drum. When the lower drum is refitted, load a tape and check the tape path alignment. You may find it necessary to adjust the tape entry and exit guides if the lower drum itself has been replaced. The next section deals with the removal of the ejector block. First, remove the 2 screws which support the upper plate. After you have removed the upper plate, gently lever out one end of the cassette loading block or cassette drawer. Then pull away from the opposite side. Replacement of the idler wheel. Slightly push forward the loading arm on the right hand side to give clearance to remove the front guide. Then with a small screwdriver, release the retaining catch which supports the loading arm and lift the loading arm up from the right hand side. When this is clear, pull to the right to release from the left hand side. The idler wheel is held in place by a small clip. Gently ease back the clip and pull the idler wheel off. Slide the new wheel on, but be careful not to crush the brake spring. Gently ease the spring forward over the top of the idler. When this is done, from the back push down so that the idler is held in place by its retaining clip. Reassembly of the loading mechanism block. It is very important that you get the teeth indexing correct when reassembling. Please refer to the service manual for this information, as this may vary slightly from one model to another. When reassembling, fit the left hand side first, and then gently push down the right hand side into its retaining clip. When refitting the loading drawer, make sure that you get the notches on the drawer in the correct runners on the main chassis. This can be fitted either way round. Left hand side first or right hand side first. Once the runners and lugs have lined up, hold the drawer forward with one hand and put the front cassette guide in with the other. Once this is fitted, the drawer will remain in place without being forced back off the runners. Finally, replace the upper plate and the two retaining screws. This section deals with the removal of the mode select switch. One tooth on the switch has been shallowed for identification purposes when re-indexing. We suggest that you identify this tooth and mark with paint or a fibre pen to make it easier to see when reassembling. First, remove the drive belt connecting the idler clutch to the capstan motor. Then remove the screw which retains the mode select switch. Please note, not all models have this screw fitted. Release the two clips situated on either side of the switch. Then the clip underneath the connecting cables to the sensor PCB. On the left hand side of the sensor PCB, you will see two more clips. Release them and gently lift the panel. Remove the two cable forms from their retaining clips. When this is done, the panel can be lifted and moved back out of the way. Removal of the loading drive block. Remove the 4 screws which are highlighted. When this is done, gently pull the block towards you and move away. You will find that the loading motor will come away with this part. Next, remove the front loading gear. Then, by putting slight pressure onto the right hand toggle gear, gently pull off the cam slider gear. Next, remove the worm gear wheel, and then, by pressing against the lever as shown, remove the right hand toggle first and then the left hand toggle. Next, remove the small plastic circlip from the idler clutch and gently remove it. To remove the cam slider, release the clips and spring that are highlighted. However, it is not essential that you remove the spring for normal servicing, but if you find that the cam plate has to be replaced, the new one will not be supplied with a spring. Installation of the cam slider gear and front loading gear. First, fit the left-hand toggle gear. Then, pushing back on the loading arm on the right-hand side, fit the right-hand toggle loading gear. Making sure that hole A and mark A line up. Next, fit the worm gear. When fitting the cam slider, make sure that the two lugs fit into their relevant tracks. Check that everything is sliding freely, and finally that all the lugs are aligned correctly. The next stage is to fit the cam slider gear. You will see two lugs. These should line up accurately with the two holes in the gear wheel. You will find by exerting slight pressure on the right hand toggle gear that it will make the cam gear go into its socket easier. Next, fit the front loading gear and check that the front edge is aligned to the edge of the cam loading gear. Check on top of the mechanism that the index hole on the tooth of the front loading gear fits into the third notch on the front loading slider. If you have removed the spring from the cam slider, refit, but make sure this is done correctly. It must go under the lower notch. If this fits onto the notch on the coupling arm, then you will find you have no rewind, forward wind or take up. Then refit the idler clutch. You are now ready to refit the loading drive block. Check the position of the coloured tooth on the mode select switch. This should line up with the groove cut in the cam slider gear. Then gently push down the PCB into its retaining clips. And if the screw on the mode switch was fitted, refit. Finally, refit the cables back into their retaining clips, being careful not to puncture them. If the insulation is broken, this could short down to earth and cause problems. When this is done, replace the drive belt. You can see from the diagram the top loading gear aligned correctly with the front loading slider. However, it is not always easy to see the hole, so we recommend that you judge it by the teeth. Reconnect the plug and the two ribbon cables to the main PCB. Cover up the two end sensors with black tape. Then plug the machine into the main supply and allow the machine to reset the mechanics. When this is done, disconnect the power and remove the black tape. Refit the cassette loading drawer and the cassette guide as shown earlier. Don't forget to reconnect the full erase head and the audio control head. If you have removed the head preamp printed circuit board, refit, making sure that the ribbon cable goes securely into the socket. We have only shown one screw, however there are two, one each side to support the board. Once the preamp board has been fitted, refit the bridge rectifier. Finally, fit the three retaining screws in the top left hand corner, then the right hand corner, and of course the one in the middle at the bottom of the chassis. Now place the tape into the machine and check that the mechanics are working correctly. Tape transport adjustments. Back tension adjustment. Back tension adjustment is done by using the back tension gauge. The normal reading should be between 35 and 40 grams. As you can see on this particular machine, it is far too high. The adjustment is done by moving the small spring on the left hand side of the supplied turntable underneath the cassette drawer. Using alignment tape TF530 RFS, check the tape path. Look at the TV screen and see if there are any noise bars or interference visible. To adjust the tape guides, you first must slacken the set screw, which is a small Allen screw located at the bottom rear of the guide. Be careful not to over slacken, because if this screw is too loose, the tape will turn the guides and give a false reading. Looking on the oscilloscope, you will see the FM envelope is not square when maladjusted. Before making this adjustment, make sure that the tracking is centralized. By gently turning the guides, the envelope will become square. The left guide adjusts the left side of the envelope and the right guide the right side. So coarsely adjust these first to get the envelope as square as possible, and then repeat 2 or 3 times to obtain optimum position. Audio control head position adjustment. This incorporates the azimuth, phase and height adjustments. Connect channel 2 of the oscilloscope to the CTL test point, and channel 1 to the SCART connector on the rear of the machine on the audio output. Then adjust the 3 screws as shown to obtain maximum output on channel 1 of the oscilloscope. Keep a careful eye on the tape guide to make sure that the tape does not run over the bottom. This should be positioned so that the tape is just touching the bottom groove of the guide. This adjustment should be carried out 2 or 3 times to obtain the optimum position. We would also recommend that if the replacement of the head is required, you count the number of turns it takes to undo each screw, so that when the new head is fitted, it will be close enough to see the trace on the oscilloscope before adjustment starts. When you are happy that you've got the maximum output from the audio channel on the head, switch on channel 2, and using test tape TF526HH, check that the CTL pulses are the same level as the audio. They should not exceed 100 millivolts peak. If this is not correct, go through the adjustment procedure again. Final adjustment is the phase or X value. Connect channel 1 of your oscilloscope to the FM envelope test point, and then make sure that the tracking is in the central position. If the tracking is not central, by using the handset, going into menu then control, you can adjust the tracking to the central position. Place a small screwdriver in the slot at the rear of the head and then gently slacken off screw C. Not so loose that it makes the head rock, but just enough to move the head from side to side. As you can see, the envelope will become square. However, there are 3 positions in which the envelope will become square and look perfect. Check when you are happy with the adjustment that the lip sync on a pre-recorded tape is correct. If not, you have peaked the head at the wrong position. Finally, when you have carried out this adjustment, press the auto tracking on the handset and check that the tracking returns to the central position. Electrical adjustments for video and servo circuits. Playback switching point adjustment. Connect channel 1 of your oscilloscope to the video output through the SCART socket, and then connect the external sync input to the 25 Hz drum switching pulse. Observe the waveform on the oscilloscope and adjust to 4 lines. Depending whether your oscilloscope is set to positive or negative, you will either see 4 whole lines or 3 lines with half a line at one end, so you should adjust for the other half at the trailing edge. Video E to E level adjustment. Again, using your oscilloscope connected to the video output on the SCART socket and with a colour bar generator connected to the video input, adjust the output level to obtain an output of 1 volt peak to peak, plus or minus 0.05 of a volt. White clip adjustment. Connect channel 1 of your oscilloscope to the appropriate test point. With the machine in the stop mode and a colour bar generator connected to the video input, adjust so that the white clip level becomes 190%, plus or minus 5%. Carrier set and deviation adjustment. Connect the oscilloscope to the test point for the record Y level and make the adjustment according to the appropriate manual for the product being repaired. This adjustment may vary between different models. Video record current adjustment. In some manuals there is a misprint reversing the chroma and luminance controls. Observe the waveform on the oscilloscope and you will see the Y signal with the chroma signal buried beneath it. The first thing you must do is to remove the Y content of the signal. Once this is done, set the chroma level according to the manual and then adjust the Y level. CCD adjustment. Set the oscilloscope to the add mode and channel 2's polarity to inverted. Obviously these test points may vary from one model to another, and also the setting up procedure itself may be slightly different. The objective is to adjust the waveform to a minimum. Video playback level adjustment. Before carrying out this adjustment, please record some colour bars onto a blank tape. Connect channel 1 of your oscilloscope to the video output through the SCART socket and adjust the video output level to give a reading of 1 volt peak to peak, plus or minus 0.05 volts. This section deals with hints and tips. The first section deals with dismantling the handset. First of all, push the slide switch as far to the right as possible. Then gently remove the top cover. A useful tool to make is a piece of plastic which is sharpened slightly at the end. This will enable you to get into the handset without damaging the outer case. Gently push in and lever the handset apart. There are 2 studs in the battery compartment of the handset. Make sure that these are clear when separating the 2 halves of the case. One common problem that we have found on this particular type of handset is the connection to the battery terminal. This tends to go dry joint and causes the handset to go intermittent or dead. Remove the old solder from the connection and lever the board up slightly. Place a screwdriver underneath to hold the wire in place and then resolder. It is advisable when replacing the pinch roller to put some grease on the top and bottom bearings, and also on the plastic shaft which protrudes through the back of the pinch roller mounting bracket. When replacing the pinch roller, make sure that when you put the spring clip back on, the open side points towards the back of the pinch roller support bracket. If it faces any other direction, this can foul on the cassette door when it is loading and jam the machine. Also, you should check the adjustment of the guide to the right hand side of the capstan shaft to make sure that the tape is not wrinkling at the top or the bottom edge. This adjustment is done by the nut indicated on the screen. This is an interesting problem. The shaft supporting the loading gear has broken from the moulding. You probably think to yourself, uneconomical to repair, but this is not so. By removing the centre broken piece and breaking the machine a little more by cutting away at the remains of the shaft, you can now replace with a new piece made of brass which is screwed into position. Make sure before refitting the gear that grease is applied to the shaft and also a small amount of glue to the screw to keep it tight. Something that we would advise you to do is to fit a small plastic block under the support for the Eject Slider. First, clean off any grease with solvent and glue the block into place. We recommend superglue for this purpose. Finally, we would recommend replacement of the shutter arm on the cassette loading drawer. All these part numbers are available under our technical bulletin reference AV10014. You may remember earlier in this video we demonstrated the reassembly of the cam slider gear and the mode switch. We mentioned the hollowed out tooth. This diagram shows very clearly the hollow tooth and the groove which would slot into the cam slide gear. The following section describes how to overcome problems caused when the VCR requires reindexing due to the use of out-of-spec VHS tapes. First, remove the two screws supporting the upper plate. Now, remove the centre screw from the front case and gently unclip at the top and lean forward. Remove the cassette tray by levering it out from one side and pulling away. Put black tape over the two end sensors. Plug the machine into the power and allow the mechanism to reset. Unplug the machine from the power and remove the black tape from the end sensors. One of the main causes for the machine to jam is because the cassette door release mechanism is not strong enough. We suggest that you put a small screwdriver under the shaft of the spring and push down to bend the spring to give more pressure. Reassemble the machine as described previously. Finally, place the tape in the machine and watch the mechanics to check that all is functioning correctly.
We hope that this cassette has proved useful to you, and we would be very interested to hear of any comments you would wish to make regarding this tape or any future tapes.